And so we're taking the power of the newswire, taking the power of sort of like insight first news and sort of information for the reader. And we're giving that power to the everyday American who's only had experience and exposure to news commentary. That sort of talking head on TV, talking about news, discussing it. That's not news. That's agenda. That's bias. And we want to give the everyday American the power to make up their own mind.
Welcome to the Amberstitt Show. I'm so happy that you're here.
Today we have my friend, Kira Shishkin, on the show today. Welcome to the show.
Amber, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be welcomed.
You're a pretty busy guy. You're traveling all over, and I've known you as a serial entrepreneur. We've talked about pretty much you are traveling the globe, essentially. Lots of freedom in that, but you're on a mission to really help people to be empowered with information. And we talked a little bit about just getting clarity back in their life, but the empowerment part is to make sure that with the information overload we have, that we can really decipher and make decisions on our own. And with Pathways in our 5-step process, we want people to have resilience in life. And that's a lot of personal reflection, but also being able to make some specific decisions for ourselves. And I think that's where your community can come into play. So can you share a little bit about what you've been working on and why you're being asked to speak all over the place?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really a pleasure it's an honor to be welcomed on your show. And I've been a fan and a listener. And, happy to share about sort of what the journey that we've been on, which is we had an observation that legacy media in America sort of functions in a way that it tries to trigger you. It tries to cause a sense of fear or outrage. And it's actually very hard to sort of feel informed or get informed while you also feel like you're being influenced, while you feel like you're being overwhelmed, and while you're also actively being solicited along the way.
Yeah.
And so those feelings are very contrary to the feeling of, being informed and just having the source step back. And so we set out to build a news concierge. We run the #1 news by text. We call it a news concierge service in America, which gives folks the power to make up their own mind, which is so important today's day when things are changing by the hour, by the day. I mean, that's sort of a nutshell. What we do is we essentially text news to our readers, but we focus on getting rid of bias, getting rid of clickbait, any sort of structural sensationalism that we observe in legacy media, and of course, any sort of advertisements or solicitations. So by the time it gets to you by text, it's just the facts and it's just the insight that leaders, executives, people who are looking to take control of their lives are looking for.
Yeah. I mean, working in insurance business, I'm not a financial planner, investment advisor, but that's all, the economics of life is something that's important to have on my day, going into my day and talking with clients. But then even if I feel that I'm at a bipartisan news outlet and it's on, I don't choose to have that TV on because I can't trust it anymore. So if I were to be using the concierge, how would you be communicating with me on a regular basis?
Yeah. So if you were using informed.now, which is our name is also our website in a way that acquisition.com was very much inspired by the Hormozis.
Yeah.
It's informed.now. And so the way you would learn about it is you'd go to the website and there it just sort of gives you a trailer of what the power of facts looks like. And then it's as simple as you say, what's your name? We don't really need your last name. We just say, hey, Amber. And what's your phone number? And a lot of people have discomfort with I'm giving someone my phone number. But it's actually one of the most secure ways to transact because we do not collect cookies.
Right.
We don't invade your privacy. We aren't able to even check open rates, which we're fine with. We don't need to know these things. So a lot of our users are actually anonymous. Our entire experience and value is delivered through SMS, through text. Every morning, to answer your question more directly, every morning you would get a text from informed.now, your news concierge, by SMS, just like in a roster of your friends on your phone inbox. And you'd take about 30 seconds to read it. It's never really more than that. And you would feel, that's what our users say they feel, and that's kind of the goal, a sense of confidence that if you do encounter people talking about news, whether that's in a boardroom or in a bar, or if you do kind of see that TV on in the background, you're not sensitive or easily swayed by that conversation because you know what's going on and you have the facts down.
The other good thing about that too is, like you said, like the triggering of seeing some of these things, you don't also want to be in denial that there's things happening around the world or even in your own nation. So having that ability to scan and see and extract that and go about your day, that's what I do like about the concept. Now, going back in time, you haven't always lived in the US. I don't know that you actually do, period, anyway, but do you notice, is it just in the US? Is this a global issue? This is a passion project for a reason.
Yeah, this has been such a strong alignment of like my expertise, my experience, my whatever with passion. Like the passion alignment here is very strong. So I'm waking up every day and getting really excited about helping folks get to clarity in their day. It's definitely a global problem. And I think it's even more extreme in other places. I think in America, it's a bit of a class problem where, for example, if you look to Guatemala, if you go to Uganda, if you go to Bosnia, like there isn't a lot of information purity to begin with. People can't even think about that because like they have not known impartial, objective news reporting. In America, we actually do have that. And we were very lucky to have that, but it's only accessible to the professional elite, right? It's very expensive subscriptions. It's very it's annual contracts and it's a lot of corporate services, right? If you're looking at S&P Capital IQ, we're looking at, mostly financial services and they're not really accessible to the everyday American. And so we're taking the power of the newswire, taking the power of sort of like insight first news and sort of information for the reader. And we're giving that power to the everyday American who's only had experience and exposure to news commentary. That sort of talking head on TV, talking about news, discussing it. That's not news. That's agenda. That's bias. And we want to give the everyday American the power to make up their own mind.
Thank you for tuning in to The Amber Stitt Show. Please give us a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy what we do. Your support goes a long way towards helping us bring you more compelling content. Remember, let's take action together. Now let's jump back into the conversation. So inside the news, are you dabbling on any of the crypto, blockchain, fintech talk? Is that something that's important to you?
Well, it's part of my background for sure. I built a business in crypto infrastructure in the past. However, it's sort of a chapter past me now. And when we're looking at sort of our coverage, I think is the spirit of your question. We actually look at world news that are changing the world. So what does that mean? It means it's a global scope. It's not just the US. It's not just regional. It's not local. We kind of do the opposite of local news, but it's filtered and evaluated for inclusion in a kind of the text that you receive based on, does it change the world or not? So we're not going to see, micro scale accidents or tragedies, right? If there's a bus crash in Kansas, it's a terrible thing, but it isn't changing the trajectory of the world. Versus if Trump and Saudi Arabia sign an agreement as they did this week, like that is actually going to increase Saudi Arabia's input into the US economy by $1 trillion. That's actually going to actively shape so many households, so many businesses, so many lives. That's the scale of events that we monitor and we curate. So if you only read news for 30 seconds a day, that's what should make it. That's what should make the cut. Things that are changing and shaping the world.
I think some of the, like you said, local news, like the bus, Kansas, it's awful. But I think that's what the headlines keep spiraling in and draw our eyes to it. And then you can kind of start your day with an intention of just something more negative than positive, although it's sad. So I do like the global aspect of being able to just be informed, which I know there's a reason behind the name. So with people, how do they find you to then just go ahead and hop into that membership and start getting their text messages?
Totally. I would say world news tend to also not always be the most optimistic. Definitely local news can get a lot of sensationalism and drama, but world news too, quite sad and, not optimistic sometimes. But to answer your question, to learn more about kind of our mission and what we're doing and how we're doing it, going to our website, informed.now is the best way to do it. And right there is also the most common way for people to sign up. Just click a button and it's completely free to start. We want to give folks the power of facts and make it accessible. But we also, this is kind of a less well-known element of our platform. We run the biggest news by text toll-free number in the US. And it's sort of like, 800 flowers or 800 got junk. Although would rather be associated with flowers than got junk.
From 100 info.
Yeah, we are 844-406-INFO.
Okay. Now, resilience is being able to overcome and just kind of keep moving forward in life. What's the feedback on people's mental clarity by going through a news outlet like this versus what we've been doing for the last 5-10 years now?
I think folks have been so drained by legacy media over the last 2 decades as the system for how they got paid, right? How they would make money turned away from reader supported into advertiser supported, where so many incentives started optimizing around advertisers because they are now the customers, and the reader started in continued sense to be sold to the advertiser. So our behavior, our attention, our consumer behavior is sold to the advertiser, which is why news are free. It's not because they're actually free. It's because you're now the product that's being sold to the advertiser instead of the news being sold to you as insight. And so we've kind of restored the fidelity or the way things should be when it comes to news that are designed for you to get informed and not influenced and not overwhelmed and not solicited and not drained. The response from our users has been, really reassured. I think reassuring is a strong word for this, where folks are sharing that they've canceled all their other subscriptions, right? Like, why would I subscribe to anything else that drains me when I can have the facts here? It's all the time I have anyway, because folks don't make a lot of time to read news. Yeah. And I can get the facts, I can get the insight and move on with my day. And so we've heard a lot about clarity, confidence from our users, a sort of peace of mind, because now you're reading content that is designed not to trigger you, designed to neutralize whatever's going on so that you can just have a passive response. It's designed actually to make news boring again, right? Because news has been way too sensationalized.
Well, you mentioned the Hermosis. If anyone's really been watching, we'll call them like the billionaires, the top 1%, people that are influential in business building, there's a huge group of people that are like, put your phone down. And it's almost like there's an awareness there for those who really want to get back to real life. And I know that this is really a component of that and it's very important. So what we're seeing is that business leaders are saying they're putting their phone, I think Mel Robbins says, even in her bathroom, and there's no phone on the nightstand anymore. And so this is part of that story. And it's really self-reflection. Are you going to do the work? And then this is a way that you can be keeping up with everything. So I think it's a step in the right direction. And I think that's where most of the elite are going or are already at anyway. And it's going to give us more confidence and clarity, like you said.
Totally. I would also add that I think there's a huge shift towards a resurgence, perhaps a reawakening around sort of what you describe as the elite, which I think is not a bad way to describe. There is a top layer in society. There is a layer in society that has different privileges, different sort of opportunities. And I think what's also being led, or at least what's being showcased there in that sort of strata, as we're describing it, is kind of an awakening of a sense of global citizenship, a sense of like, it's not just about my environment. It's not about my neighborhood, my block, my city. I'm also a citizen of the world. I think it's an effect of how globalized we've become and how globalized we continue to become, in a sense of I'm no longer just an American who lives in Pittsburgh or American who lives in San Francisco. I'm now an American who may live there, but I'm a citizen of the world and I care about what's going on around me because it's all affecting me. I think we've seen that with so much China action, with so much Middle East action, that America is playing more of that role. And I think a lot of American citizens are also waking up to the fact that, hey, I don't just live in America. I am part of a global civic body, so to speak. And that's also a trend we're leaning into since we focus on a global monitoring and a global awareness.
The clarification there is when you study successful people, the behaviors are less distractions. And this is what you're providing. Yeah. So it's
Couldn't
awesome.
agree more.
Yeah. Well, glad that I caught you for a few minutes today. So really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you for having me. This has been delightful.
We'll link up everything in the description box. We need to get more news out there to everybody throughout the globe, right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Amber Stitt Show. Please check out the podcast page at amberstitt.com for more episodes and content like this. Until next time, keep taking action on your unique path.